Greetings from New Orleans and beautiful NOLA Motorsports Park, which for the first time will host the cars of the TC Ameirca, powered by the Skip Barber Racing School Series. Rounds 3 and 4 of the 2022 campaign about to take place, starting here with race number 1 of the weekend around this 16-turn, 2 3/4 mile road course down on the bayou. Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. We've got Amanda Busick in the pit lane. So excited to be bringing you live action from NOLA Motorsports Park. Calvin, this was not a track that was supposed to be on the schedule this year, but it's been a welcome addition. All the drivers we've talked to throughout multiple classes have said this track is more challenging than meets the eye.
Yeah, steep learning curve over the last couple of days with the practice day here on Thursday, followed by formal practice here yesterday. But this racetrack is very raceable, and I think we're going to see a lot of side-by-side action with these TCX, TC, and TCA machines here this morning. 3
classes of cars already out on track for their formation laps. On the overall pole, Stephen Cugliari, great to have him back in the championship. Ran a partial schedule a year ago and brought the challenge to Jacob Ruud, the reigning champion in TCX. Cugliari on pole, Colin Garrett alongside. It will be Ruud, the reigning champ, starting in the 3rd spot with Lucas Catania next to him. Garrett Adams and Steve Strymer making up row 3, while Olivia Joseph Catania round out the TCX field. Back to TC. Kevin Bohm, the points leader on pole. He'll have Clay Williams alongside, who's been very strong in that new TC Spec Mini. Matt Pombo, Matt Ibrahim, very impressive qualifying performance to start 4th in class. Then Ken Fukuda, Nicholas Barbado in row 8. Starting in the next row, Ruben Iglesias and Jeff Rica, Mike Lamara, and Chris Valdez rounding out the rest of the TC field. To TCA, where Gresham Wagner, who won Race 2 of the weekend at Sonoma, will start on pole. He and Carter Fartuk are tied for the championship lead. They'll start alongside one another on the front row of the TCA grid. Devin Anderson and newcomer Spencer Bucknam starting in row 2. Colin Harrison and Christian Barracarpi starting 5th and 6th. Then it's PJ Gronke and Sally McNulty, Brandon Tyner and Tyler Delgado, Mario Biundo and Xiaoyi Che round out the field of 30 touring cars across 3 classes. We're about to start this race. Down to the pit lane now. Let's check in with the 3rd member of the broadcast crew, Amanda Busick.
Well, Ryan, you mentioned the reigning champ, Jacob Ruud, is starting in that 3rd position today. He made a post on social media saying that he's just simply not happy with that. I was able to catch up with him prior to the race, and he said that it actually makes him hungrier. We know that he kind of led through last season, and now that he has competition against him, he said that it's great for him as he continues to advance his racing abilities, but said at the start of this race, he plans on following Stephen right through turn 1, and those are the guys that are applying competition on Jacob this weekend. If we go back to Sonoma, Stephen was able to podium in both races, so it will be a fun start to this race. I did catch up with Colin Garrett as well, just in his 2nd round here in TC Ameirca. I asked him what his sights are on as we kick off this race, and he simply said winning. But I'm sure that's the whole class of guys, but you got to love the confidence out of these young drivers.
No question about it. Jacob Ruud has won 12 of his 16 starts in this series, but he does have his work cut out for him starting on the 2nd row. That competition is ramping up in TCX.
It is, and last year Cugliari sort of took the icing off the cake for that championship year, winning 3 times last year. Didn't have the strongest event at Sonoma, but as Amanda just alluded to, a couple of podiums keeps him in the points chase. We believe he's here for the full season campaign, so great to see a little shake-up here in terms of some other competitors taking it. Young Colin Garrett on the front row, 21-year-old. Lots of stock car experience, so this is a new kind of trend for him getting into road racing.
So many stories up and down this grid, and we're about to turn them loose. The safety car has accelerated away, leaving the field now in the hands of the pole man, Stephen Cugliari. It will be 3 distinct starts for the 3 different classes in TC Ameirca, powered by the Skip Barber Racing School. Cugliari in the white machine, Colin Garrett in the silver car with the red accents on the outside of the front row, just waiting to get to that VP acceleration zone. And here we go, racing, race number 1 of the weekend at NOLA Motorsports Park, and Cugliari gets a great jump from the pole position. He will lead the field into turn 1.
He does, and Jacob Ruud did not get a great start. Now he tries to get to the inside into that brake zone, does now get inside of Colin Garrett there for that 2nd position.
Meanwhile, in TCA, it's the points man, points leader Kevin Bohm, who accelerates away Clay Williams in the mini slots in second. Bohm looking defensive there in the gray and red Honda. Back to TCA we go. Gresham Wagner on the pole with the Tech Sport Racing Subaru. And he's got his championship rival Carter Fartuck alongside.
Fartuck gets the jump there. He slides across to take that lead down into the brake zone. 3-4 wide there. It's really wide down this front straightaway, about 40 feet wide.
Someone made a big move up the inside from deep in the TCA field. Hopefully they made it through cleanly. To the front of the field we go. It's still Cugliari with the lead, but the fight is on here for second with Colin Garrett, the newcomer to touring car racing, and he's got the reigning champ right behind him.
He does, and it looked like Jacob Rue was going to get down to the inside there through turn one, but that twisty stuff that opens up this lap allowed Garrett to get back that track position, so Cugliari leads from the pole.
Good jump from the pole sitter, that's for sure. Great to see this class growing. TCX, it's still on the BMWs. We do think there is some manufacturer interest in joining this class down the road, but for now it's proven to be a great platform for these BMW M2 CS machines. Cugliari piloting his out at the front of the field.
Saw that moment for Steve Strymer aboard the number 30 Hardpoint racing machine. Just really showcases how difficult those S's are. Very technical, particularly before these tires get up to full pressure and temperature in this opening lap.
Look how fierce it is in the TCA field, and a great mix of cars. We've got a Honda, a Subaru, a Mini, all running there in the top four. A couple of Minis, in fact, right there in the mix. And to look for the Minis this weekend, Calvin, they've updated the front fascia of those cars with the more updated look that you'll see on your street Minis these days.
Yeah, that's going to be nice to see how that plays out. They always seem to be in the mix. Short wheelbase car, so really gets through this tight, twisty stuff very effectively.
My understanding is that does give a bit more cooling to the Minis in this current spec, and that could be important. It is a hot day here in New Orleans.
Big time with these production-based vehicles, essentially, even though they're out on race conditions. I mean, you get to extreme temperatures, a lot of sort of fail-safe systems that kick into place to shut down the power a little bit, so that's always a concern for these drivers and teams.
Definitely the Honda camp, specifically talking about the fact that the way that the timing works with the turbochargers, if the temperature gets up, they can lose some of that timing and lose the horsepower. Kevin Bohm talked to me about that, his teammate, but in the TCA field, Carter Fartuck talked to me about that as well. That's something they've got their eyes on. Some dust kicked up by someone as we go side by side here.
There's Bucknam there. Has had a great start. He's battling out here for second position right now.
And with the pole sitter, Gresham Wagner, who's dropped back a couple of spots. Back to the TC fight, though, and Kevin Bohm got that great getaway, but he's being hounded by Clay Williams in the TC Spec Mini.
Yeah, and they've scampered up the road a little bit. And this is one of the cars that are concerned about those extreme temperatures. We saw it last year in the thick of the summer races that Kevin Bohm would struggle a little bit with his machine. So really nice start at Sonoma, but we had extremely mild conditions there. Totally different cup of tea here this weekend.
Bohm swept the weekend in Sonoma, winning both races. Clay Williams was on the podium in both. He was third in the first one and had the fastest race lap. Second in the second race from pole, but Bohm was the one who edged him out.
Some sort of like overflow system kicking in there as he was bouncing it through those final couple of corners there. Is it fuel overflow situation or whatever it is coming from the rear fender situation there on that Honda. This run that the Mini is getting down this front straightaway. Mini stays very stable. Don't see a lot of nosedive as he hits the brakes there for turn one.
Looks awfully strong. We saw that car debut a year ago, and it was very much a development right in front of everyone's eyes, right? That car that the LAP Motorsports team has assembled, basically running this Mini program as they have for so many years. Yeah, I see the same thing coming out of the overflow, right-hand side.
Yeah. Pay attention to that.
Well, certainly paying attention to it is Clay Williams, because a little bit of dampness on this track can make a big difference.
Pombo there sitting in the third position, Barbado right behind him.
Barbado up a couple spots at the start, now runs fourth. Side by side here.
Yeah.
I think that is Barbado.
Yeah, everyone's trying to figure out this racetrack in terms of race conditions. You try and get the lines down during practice, but now it's all about the racing. Where can you make a move? Where can you run side by side through these multiple corners, through the S's?
Top four unchanged at the very front of the field. TCX, Cugliari first, Garrett second, Ruud third, and Lucas Catania running in the fourth spot. And it's interesting that Lucas is starting to pile the pressure onto the reigning champion, Jacob Ruud, falling back into his clutches.
He thought about, he told Amanda, I'm just going to try and follow Cugliari down into turn one. He attempted to make that happen. Now he dropped back a little bit, getting the attention of Catania. And this is really indicative of what we saw in qualifying, with the top four separated by a mere 23/100ths of a second.
Catania was on the podium in each of the first two races, third in race one, second in race two, made a single start last year at Watkins Glen in race two where he finished third. Pass for second in TCA, and that's Bucknam now up from his fourth place starting position, and he grabs the second spot away from Gresham Wagner.
It's a great little battle. Bucknam doing a really nice job. Knew his dad very well. He had a couple of Indy 500 starts. Great history with Honda over the years. His grandfather as well.
Grandfather Jeff, grandfather Ronnie. Formula One with the Honda factory team many decades ago and had some success racing at Le Mans as well. So this is second, third, and fourth in TCA. The reigning MX5 Cup champion, Gresham Wagner, who won race two at Sonoma, now trying to take that spot back away from young Spencer Bucknam.
Oh, this is cool. This is what I anticipated with these classes here, being able to see a lot of side-by-side action. Got to keep it clean. Lots of bumps too, so as you're running side-by-side, suddenly the car's going to twitch, potential for some contact.
Christian Pericarpi keeping close tabs on this as they continue to run side-by-side right in front of him. And then it's Pericarpi's teammate, PJ Gronke, right behind. Looks like Wagner's going to steal that spot right back from young Spencer Bucknam.
Actually, maybe Anderson in the 22 machine.
Well, you might be right. Keep tabs on that because... yeah, I think you're onto something there. So that's actually a little bit further back in the field. So apologies there. Devin Anderson in the identically painted, if you will, or wrapped Tech Sport car goes around Wagner.
So top two have
goes around
got
Bucknam,
away
rather.
a little bit. Fartuk leads comfortably from Wagner, and this is the battle for third with Bucknam and Anderson and Pericarpi. Close proximity there.
Apologies for that, folks.
See, the Hondas really seem to bounce around a little bit. It looks like they're a little bit more softly sprung. Looking for that compliance, being able to run the curbs a little bit more effectively, but you're really going to go for a bit of a rodeo ride through some of the bumps here. Just where this racetrack is laid, it's basically got a very soft underbelly to it, and so you get a lot of bumps in the road.
Almost wavy, right?
Yes.
Is how we've heard it described. Rippling. In some cases, it's in an interesting part of the track. In the braking zones is where we're seeing this, and that really can challenge these drivers.
Yeah, you can see that from the black marks on the road there, kind of where the dips are. Literally, it showcases itself. These Pirelli tires are doing the work into the brake zones.
Already nearly a quarter of the way through this race. It is a rapid pace to these TC Ameirca races. Just 40 minutes, single driver sprint races, no time to wait around. Cugliari, so impressive here. Right now keeping a relative newcomer behind him at bay, and Garrett.
He seemed a bit off song at Sonoma. We expected so much when we saw him on the entry list for the opening round of the championship, based on how much of a hard time he gave Jacob Ruud on the course last year. This is a big run here by Garrett.
Taking a peek to the inside, that's the silver and red car, not close enough to make the move. All of this very new to Colin Garrett, who comes from a stock car racing background, made 5 NASCAR Xfinity Series starts 1 year ago at Talladega, Michigan, Daytona, Darlington, and Martinsville, none of which have much in common with this NOLA Motorsports track.
Well, the only thing in common is maybe you have to get your elbows out a little bit here as well to make a move through some of this twisty stuff, but he's doing a really nice job. Great performance here this weekend. Johann Schwartz is working with him, with the Rooster Hall team, to get him up to speed as fast as they can, accelerate his learning curve a little bit.
One of the points that he's adjusting to is the ABS on these cars. That's obviously not something he had with the NASCAR stock car. as well as the difference in tire. It's a much narrower tire on the stock car side, very different compounded construction to what the Pirellis are here.
Particularly the sidewall as
Right.
well. You've got very high side profile on an Xfinity car compared to these lower profile Pirelli P0s that they're running here this weekend. So it takes a different set. You know, with an Xfinity car, there's a lot more roll, and then you kind of feel where the car is actually being loaded up. And it's a lot more immediate with these cars, a lot more responsive.
Kevin Bohm continuing to show the way in TC. Amanda, what do you know about his race so far?
Well, I was just talking to his wife, Sharon, about tire deck as well as some of the strategy that they're on here in this race, and she called him the tire deck robot. Kevin actually has an Excel spreadsheet that after every practice, every qualifying, every race, he goes to immediately and starts inputting variables that have their own coding that flip to other tabs and more tabs she was talking about. So Kevin takes this very, very serious. Said he has the same application when it comes to the fuel strategy as well. And with these front wheel vehicles, they said that these tires are falling off right around lap number 2. So it could get dicey as we get into this race.
Well, it's an immediate drop-off, but what we heard from practice on Thursday, where teams were seeing a little bit of tire degradation, to the end of yesterday when there was more rubber went down, is that you get that immediate drop-off, but then they kind of plateau and hold stations. We'll have to wait and see how this transpires a little bit deeper into the run here.
Kevin forced to go a bit defensive this time as Clay Williams takes a peek. Not close enough to make a move, however, and Bohm holds on to the spot for now. Not at all surprising to hear his analytical approach to his racing, keeping in mind he is a senior vehicle dynamics development engineer and test driver for Honda Research and Development. So with that engineering background, he's very much applying that same philosophy to his racing, and he's been very successful. First at the amateur level, winning the SCCA runoffs on several occasions, and then you look at what he's done in TC Ameirca, winning in the championship in his first year of TCA, and very much a championship contender a year ago in his first year in this TC class.
Yeah, it makes you wonder when his wife asks what sort of wallpaper should we put in the powder room, whether he goes through the same sort of data analysis.
I'm sure Sharon will let us know. We do appreciate all of her updates. By the way, I just saw dropping down timing and scoring, Ken Fukuda, who had a good run going, was shown in the pits. In fact, you can see there on the left-hand side of the screen in the TC class, he's now dropped down to the 10th and final position, shown in the pit lane, and that is not scheduled. No scheduled pit stops in these 40-minute sprints in TC Ameirca.
You can see the different ride that Kevin Bohm's having through these S's compared to Clay Williams. I mean, the Honda really rolling around a lot compared to the very stiff platform it looks like on the Mini.
Battle for the final step of the TCX podium, and both of these gentlemen appear to have their hands full. Jacob Ruud in that #1 car, he has the top spot, but not so far behind is Lucas Catania, who continues to hound the reigning class champion.
He's really putting immense pressure on, so when Jacob Ruud has a bad day, he's finishing second. Right now, he's got a big problem on his hands to even hang on to that final podium spot right now. Cugliari and Guerra a couple of seconds up the road, and Catania's keeping Ruud honest here.
I think Catania might be the quicker of the two if you were able to get by. And comparing last lap times, Catania was a couple tenths quicker than Ruud, but this is a difficult track to find spots to overtake on. Maybe a little bit less so for these touring cars, less aero dependent, don't create the same kind of wake, but we've talked to a number of drivers that have said there are places that can present a chance, but you might not be fully alongside. You really have to commit to a move.
Yeah, and I think with the sequencing of some of the corners, particularly in the first and final sector there, you've got to have the ability and the confidence to run side by side and give each other a little bit of room.
Last leader in TCA, Carter Fartuck.
This is a surprise. He's kind of taken off here a little bit, hasn't he? 3+ seconds down the road on Wagner.
And Wagner had a big lap to take the pole in that class.
He had that by half a second, so I expected him to be giving Carter the lead here, or having the lead over Carter. So Carter may have made a little switch on his setup here between qualifying and race, and is taken off a bit.
Had a chat with him about the good start to the year, coming away with a win and a tie for the championship lead after Sonoma. And he said, yeah.
Oh, that's wide.
Gresham Wagner able to bring it back under control, but yeah, he's pushing for all it's worth.
Yeah, that curbing there, when we went on the drive around with Brian Till, race director here this weekend, we commented on that. Curbing seems to start pretty late on the exit of that corner there for turn 4, and that's a good indicator there. If you don't run a little bit wide, you're hitting the grass before you get to the curbing.
Back to what Carter was telling me, he said, yeah, we feel like we've got some momentum leaving Sonoma. We just need to be nice and steady, have consistent, strong results. Remember how they came on strong in the middle of the season last year to emerge as a championship contender. Had a mathematical shot at it going into the final 2 races of the season at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But to start this year off with a pair of poles, with a first and a second place finish, he just wants to keep that going, have that consistency across the season.
Yeah, I think he learned a lot last year. He's going to be tough to beat, but he's certainly got some stiff competition. So early days yet, only round 3 of a long season.
Looks like Bucknam has dropped off of Devin Anderson considerably and now finds himself coming under attack from Christian Pericarpi, who only made his race debut at the tail end of the year last year at Sebring, something of a graduation present from his father, who runs this team. And Christian surprised everyone but himself, I think it's safe to say, with how well he did in those races at Sebring, and he's going to be plugged into this car for the entire season. And he said to me earlier this weekend, just knowing I'm in the car for the full year, it's taking the pressure off.
That was deep. This is where it's cool. This is where you can get side by side. This is turn 2, making that little run up to the next corner. Left-hander coming up. Like Bucknam was able to ease away a little bit. Then he runs super wide coming off that corner.
Opens the door back up for Christian Pericarpi. Can't quite draw alongside.
Seems like you got to be so disciplined here, Ryan. There's a ton of sort of landscape to work with, but it's not real efficient if you get super wide out there. It's turn 5. You see some of the cars running all the way over those curbings, so race director given these drivers a little bit more room to work with, really not calling any track limits out there, and certainly through turn 16 we see everyone running pretty wide through that final corner onto the front straightaway.
22 minutes to go. Let's check in once more with Amanda.
Well, you see that gap closing between Clay Williams, and I was talking to Lewis about the Hondas and the Minis, but your experience with Honda helps you kind of game plan for the Minis. How does that benefit you?
Yeah, I mean, we know their weaknesses, and this weather is not helping them. They've always been at the limit already, so we know that, you know, Bohm is up front. If we can just get ahead of them, there's no way they can stay behind us, you know. So we know one already dropped out with engine problems, so we expect that all the other Hondas are right there with that same issue. So the Mini's running cool. Obviously, it's got the same DNA as our other Minis, so weather's not a problem for us, or the temperature's not a problem for us. It's just a matter of getting in front of Bohm to take that air out and slow them down a little bit.
As we kick off round 2 of this TC Ameirca season, what's your assessment on your program so far?
Yeah, I mean, I expected the TC car to be here last year. We kind of got lost towards the end of the season. And over the winter, we went back to what we knew, and obviously it shows that that's where we needed to be. And it's been the second fastest car in TC. Here we should be the fastest with the weather. Hopefully, we'll see. They're running nose to tail right there, and Clay's just trying to get in front of them if he can, and we'll see what happens. It's not a given, obviously, but we're in a good spot.
It's a really interesting point about this battle here, because as Amanda and Lewis were talking about there, that was Louis Pericarpi, by the way, team owner for LAP Motorsports, which runs the Minis, but until this year, they ran the LA Honda World Team too. So he's got firsthand experience with this Honda Civic, and he knows exactly what Kevin Bohm is dealing with right now.
Well, track position is always critical, right? You want the lead, you want to control things, but even more important when he said, like, the Honda struggles if it doesn't get the air to that front grille. So he's wanting Clay Williams to get that track position, get the lead, but then it could have a really adverse effect on the potential performance of the Honda if it's suddenly not running in clean air.
Nicholas Barbato had a good run going, but I just saw his name tumble down the order, and in fact now is being listed as out, it would appear. So that's unfortunate for the Gin Racer team, the teammate with car owner.
What's going on here? Change for the lead, I believe. That's Cugliari in trouble.
Oh, wow.
Suddenly dropped the lead to Garrett, and Rude has got around him as well.
It's a big change at the front of the field, so you're right. Garrett should go through to the class lead. That promotes Rude now up to second, and he has the Crown Strike fastest lap of the race, but that was set quite a while ago, it's worth noting. The times have dropped off a couple of seconds from where they were at the start, and now into TCA traffic. That might have had a say in this.
I think Cugliari has had an off or some kind of issue because he lost a couple of seconds on that lap, but now seems to be up to speed again.
That car parked off in the grass, by the way, was Nicholas Barbato, who we were talking about a moment ago. Yeah, these leaders, though, they're going to have their hands full dealing with out-of-class traffic here, Calvin, and likewise, it's going to be difficult for... that is Barbato. But it's not going to be any easier on the slower classes being passed, especially through the S's.
Yeah. Let's see if Cugliari maintains his pace. He's kind of hanging tough there. Garrett's got away a little bit, but now a lot of pressure on those relatively young shoulders to deal with leading one of these races for the first time.
This is a big run for Colin Garrett, who only has 2 touring car races under his belt, those coming at Sonoma, where he finished 5th and 6th. And his pace has been really good here all weekend, but to find himself up at the very front.
Cugliari's car seems to be fine. I've just been watching the gaps between he and Rude. Oh, that was eating a lot of that curb. Little mistake there.
And Catania took a peek up the inside.
Did he damage the suspension there? He really clobbered that. He could be in trouble here. He just got dirt on his tires trying to regroup a little bit, but boy, did he really eat a lot of that curb and went for the big ride.
That's the fight for 3rd and 4th. Yep, slips out wide, does Cugliari into the inside. Catania now up onto the podium.
Well, it's been a wild couple of laps here for Stephen Cugliari, our early leader.
And then I think that could be a fight for position behind in TCA. Yes, Pericarpi and Bucknam drag racing down the front straightaway, Mini versus Honda. We'll see how that plays out. It should be right behind these two. And yeah, how about that? The straight line speed of the Mini has Pericarpi out in front before they even get to the corner.
Yeah, that certainly seems to have a bit of an advantage there. See how it plays out now with the ebb and flow of this racetrack. Very equal over the overall lap. Obviously, this tight, twisty stuff, you need something a little bit different. Bucknam there, he just seems to really wash out wide there through turn 3, doesn't he? And it doesn't seem to be effective in terms of where he exits the corner relationship to the other cars around him.
Moves Pericarpi up into 4th now. Bucknam drops to 5th. Clay Williams is dropping down the TC order all of a sudden. He's being shown in 5th after running right on the tail of Bohm, challenging him, in fact, for the class lead not that long ago.
Yeah, I wonder if he tried to make a move and it went a bit wrong, but you're right, he's dropped way down the order. So Pombo now in 2nd, but 7 seconds back of Kevin Bohm.
champion, Jacob Ruud.
Yeah, I think Ruud's just settled back here and just going to bring the points home. And this is good for Gary. He doesn't have a lot of traffic in front of him. You know, when someone's sitting there like a second and a half off your tail, that really keeps the pressure on to not waste too much time in traffic. But right now he's just got to hit his marks. I'm sure the team is talking him through this. I'm not sure if Johann Schwartz, who coaches him, is on the radio at the same time, just walking him through this final lap.
Finished 8th in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East Championship back in 2019. Made a Truck Series start in 2020, 5 Xfinity Series starts, 5 more Xfinity starts 1 year ago for Sam Hunt Racing. But now with Rooster Hall Racing, team from his native Virginia, he is just a few corners away from his first career win in the TC Ameirca, powered by the Skip Barber Racing School Series.
It's turn 13 through this like tight, twisty final couple of corners, then he'll open up his hands and look for that start-finish stripe.
Entered the weekend 5th in points, 32 tallies behind Ruud, the championship leader. Still very early in the season, of course, but out of the final corner, down the long main front straightaway, Colin Garrett wins his first career touring car race here at NOLA Motorsports Park.
Excellent job. Just a great race. Got the lead, didn't succumb to the pressure, and just brings it home.
Meanwhile, in TC, Kevin Boehm was under a great deal of pressure despite starting from pole. He had Clay Williams right there on his tail for the better part of this race. He's out in front in TC. Carter Fartuck leads now in TCA by a healthy margin, and he's just a few corners away from picking up his second win of the season.
Yeah, and with some drama there at the front of the TCA field, that gives Bucknam a run up into the podium spot once again, backing up his sweep of the podium of at Sonoma a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Bucknam would be in position to finish 3rd in his first 3 starts if that should hold up. But here is the winner, it would appear. Carter Fartuck out of the final corner. Win number 2 of the season for the Skip Barber Racing School team driver.
That was a surprise. I didn't expect to see him take off like that following what we saw in qualifying. So maybe Carter didn't lay down the optimum lap in qualifying, really didn't showcase his true potential, but certainly brought it home in race conditions.
Devin Anderson comes home in 2nd in TCA. Wait for Spencer Bucknam to complete that podium, but now we focus on the TC leader and winner, it would appear, Kevin Boehm. A perfect start to this season, and his championship aspirations are looking as strong as ever. But up front, overall winner, Colin Garrett. What an impressive young man. He's adapted to touring car racing very quickly.
Yeah, and this TCX class has suddenly come alive, right? I mean, it was dominated by Jacob Ruud, who just did an outstanding job last year. But we saw on occasion other drivers could come in and, you know, sort of match his times and performance. But today, this really showcases what we may see for the remainder of the season.
17 starts in the series for Jacob Ruud in this class, and he's won 12 of them.
Right.
This is only the 5th start in TCX that he has not won, but he was right there in 2nd, did a good job keeping a level head when others were falling by the wayside, and it's a good points day for him nonetheless, with his closest pursuers struggling, relatively speaking. Let's look at the provisional race results, and Garrett by 4.8 seconds takes the win overall and in TCX over Ruud. Lucas Catania, another strong showing. He's back up on the podium. Stephen Cugliari had a great start, Cal, but dropped back to 4th.
He did. He lost a couple of seconds and lost the lead there middle of the race, and then when he was trying to recover, get back into a rhythm, had another moment, so cost him that final podium position.
Boehm, Pombo, and how about Matt Ibrahim, his first podium in TC?
That's really cool. That's really cool. So some surprises. I think the attrition rate is also a big surprise as well here today. I mean, tough conditions, very warm, about 90 degrees ambient right now. And if you do run off there, as Amino is a great raceable racetrack, lots of room out here, but there are a few bumps if you go off in the wrong places.
And it turns into a great points day for the TCA winner, Carter Fartuck, who wins, and his closest pursuer in the championship, Gresham Wagner, had those issues late and dropped well down the order, will score just a single point, classified 10th.
Wow, that's a huge swing.
For a pair that were tied on points coming in to the weekend. That is the bottom of the charts. 30 cars took the green flag. Issues very early for Xiao Yu Che, who does not even turn a lap here today. Very disappointing for the Chinese driver. see that issue, whatever it might be, rectified in time for the race tomorrow. Well, a fun start and our first glimpse at sports car racing effectively here at NOLA Motorsports Park. And we've got a whole lot more still to come over the course of the day today and ahead into tomorrow, where the forecast calls for quite a bit of rain. We'll have our eyes on the skies tomorrow, certainly, but even a chance perhaps here today. Down to Victory Lane and Amanda Busick.
Well, in just his third race, Colin Garrett is picking up the win here in race number 1 at NOLA Motorsports Park. I talked to you prior to the race, and you said my focus is on winning. You called it. How'd you do that?
I don't know. I just kept the pressure there on the 57 there early and just hit my marks there throughout the race. All the guys, Fat Rooster All Racing, brought a fantastic 1111 BMW out here to NOLA. First time out here, you know, I wasn't too sure what to think about this place, but I've come to love it. So I'm super excited, and today actually marks the 5th year anniversary of my first win ever. So I haven't won in like 4 years, and it's been super dry in the NASCAR side. But to come from NASCAR and be able to win on my 3rd race is super awesome. So I'm super happy to be here.
Congratulations, Colin.
When you win a race at a racetrack, do you instantly love the place, Cal?
You do. Gives you a lot of confidence, and particularly with the doubleheader weekend, we saw a lot of sweeps at Sonoma. Someone who had the advantage, sort of like really compounding that on day 2. So we'll have to wait and see if Garrett can do that tomorrow here.
Yeah, great performance though, and first win in several years, as we just learned. But showed great pace. Can't wait to see what he could do tomorrow. I wonder how much rain racing experience he's got coming from stock car racing.
Yeah, and it's unknown territory. I mean, do you run offline like you do traditionally at some of the road courses? They've ground a lot of the race circuits, so there may be grip everywhere. So that could make it really entertaining in terms of side-by-side action in slippery conditions.
Oh, great performance, and like he said, just putting some pressure on early. Was able to use that to his advantage and slipped ahead into the top spot. The pole sitter in TC ends up as the race winner, Amanda.
Well, Kevin, you're going to go back and listen to the race, and it was not me that called you the tire deg robot. That is your wife, and she talked about your commitment to the coding and looking at all the data. Does that give you advantage when you get into that race car?
Well, in a lot of ways, it gives me an advantage, and it can be a disadvantage at the same time because it's easy to kind of overthink things, but I think for me, it's just kind of going into the race with a plan and trying to execute on it, and that's exactly what our partners at CrowdStrike and AWS and HPD and everybody involved, they take the exact same approach, which is why it's such a great relationship.
You're a runner-up in the points last year. What's your intention here this season?
Well, there's only one place up from there, so that's my goal, but we got really good competitors out there, so I know it's not going to be easy. So our head's down, and we're working as hard as we can every race.
Congratulations on the win.
A happy guy. What a great start to the season. I think by his own admission, there was a lot of learning going on last year as he stepped in to this TC car for the first time as the reigning TCA champion. But by the midpoint of the season, he seemed to find something. And now, it appears early on at least, that he's been the class of the field through 3 races.
He has. He's going to be tough to beat. I mean, I really love what Kevin Boehm does and how he goes about his racing. I mean, he's totally dedicated. He lives and breathes it, as does a lot of the guys and girls in our paddock, of course. But he's really the benchmark in this class this year.
One more winner to hear from. Let's do it now.
Taking the top spot here in NOLA is Carter Fartuck, and you said that it was the consistency in this car that led to this win. What made this car so successful here?
Well, first off, Honda built an automatically fast wagon right out the gate. I mean, the 11th gen Honda Civic Si, we had a lot of success in Sonoma, and being able to carry that over here to a completely different track, different style track, just says wonders about the product. Also, Skip Barber Racing School. I mean, we worked a lot on setup and everything, and I think we dialed it in just right. Those BRZs are quick. They're really, really quick, but I think being able to run consistent laps with this was what made the difference. So really, really happy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's right. It is a brand new car. This is the only one of it running in the world. I guess there's 2 in total, and he's got 1 as a backup car. But everyone learning on the fly, and Carter told me earlier this weekend, we learned a ton at Sonoma and feel pretty good about where we are positioned here this season. Fun way to get things started, and yet another TC Ameirca race coming up tomorrow here from NOLA Motorsports Park. Hope you join us then. So long.